Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Dr. Danny Jean, and it is truly an honor and a privilege to be with you today and share 5 messages for future graduates. 5 messages for future graduates. So, as a self-reflection exercise, complete this sentence. The last 2 years have been blank. The last 2 years have been blank. Since the pandemic has started, how has it impacted you? How have you processed the information? How have you grown? If you had to summarize everything you've experienced in the past 2 years, what would that word be? The last 2 years have been blank. The word that I would use for me, the last 2 years have been enlightening. Enlightening in a sense of self-reflection, identifying, being able to slow down and truly identify um, what's important, reprioritize, a mental break in some ways, although it was stressful for several. It's a great opportunity to truly just pause for a second and identify what's important and what's not. This is a visual representation of what I believe the last 2 years have been for the average scholar. Having to learn virtually, disruption of your plans, disruption of your career goals, academically, socially, curricular, co-curricular. It's been devastating in a lot of ways. So I do want to pause and salute you all for continuing on that road to graduation, despite all of your challenges, despite of everything you've been through. In this moment, you are still moving forward and that road to graduation continues. When I think about your particular journey, it allows me to reflect on my journey as a student. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself a little bit later. But that road to graduation for me was very daunting because at one point in my high school years, I had a 1.9 GPA. I went on to earn my bachelor's in public communications, earn my master's in counseling, and earn my EDD, my doctorate in higher education leadership. I earned all of my degrees in Jersey, and that 1.9 GPA, when I reflect on how I changed and how I grew over time, the 5 messages that I'm going to share with you are the primary reasons why I was able to go from a 1.9 GPA to the doctoral salute. So this handsome young fellow that you see in this still photo is me during that time and trying to truly, one of my colleagues wrote an article recently saying, what were you, took a picture and asked the graduates, what were you thinking about in that picture? And if I can go back and think about what I was experiencing during that time in this picture, it would literally take me back to my tumultuous childhood, growing up in Newark, New Jersey, and some of the challenges I faced. And if you could relate to any of those challenges, you were not alone. My family moved over 12 times before I graduated from high school. And we were actually homeless at one time. I had to move in with family members, literally moving from house to house, staying in my family's, extended family's basements, trying to find that stability, trying to find that place where a place that was just more conducive to learning. So if you're experiencing any level of instability in your journey on your road to graduation, you are not alone. Death and violence in my community, lost my father when I was 13 years old, lost several loved ones to violence, random violence, preventable diseases, lost family members due to COVID, extended family members due to COVID. If you are suffering from the loss of loved one or loved ones as you continue on that road to graduation, you are not alone. So-called teachers in the schools that I went to that didn't motivate me on any level. I had teachers, at least one teacher tell me I'd be dead before I turned 25. If you've ever been in the presence of so-called educators, you are not alone. Alcohol and drugs have run rampant in my family. I have drug dealers in my family. I have drug users in my family. If alcohol or drugs have impacted your life in any form or fashion, you are not alone. I stand on the shoulder of Haitian immigrants who came to America, who came to the States for the American dream and running water. Couldn't speak English, but knew that education was the passport for me to achieve all of my personal and professional dreams. If you stand on the shoulder of giants and plan to improve your family legacy, whatever that legacy is, you are not alone. I remember growing up in these anti-intellectual environments, and it wasn't cool to be smart. You had to dumb it down for the people around you. You were called corny, ostracized, and marginalized. If you've ever been in a situation where you felt you had to dumb it down because of your intelligence, because of the people you were around, or felt marginalized because of your uniqueness or ostracized on any level, you were not alone. So when we talk about this journey and these 5 messages that I want to share with you, the 5th message is we make no excuses. So ultimately, we are going to experience drama, we are going to experience trauma, but how are you going to overcome those challenges? And believe it or not, and I heard one of my favorite speakers say this, if you are alive in this moment, that means you have overcome all of the challenges that you've experienced in your life, whether you're battered, bruised, scarred, you are here, you are present. So that shows you that you have the resilience, although you may still be struggling with some of those challenges. And those challenges can include, and everything that I mentioned on this screen are challenges that I still face to this day to some degree. So if you were scared, you were not alone. If you have depressive thoughts, you are not alone. And if you have what's diagnosed as clinical depression, I implore you to seek help, and your institution has those resources. If you feel unhealthy or making unhealthy choices with your diet, trust me, because what you consume mentally and through food consumption can impact you. If you are suffering from anxiety or fear, you are not alone. So it's very important that you acknowledge your barriers, give yourself grace, but understand that no one's coming to save you. And ultimately, your destiny is in your own hands. So you have to make the choices and decisions to make sure you continue on that road to graduation to achieve all of your personal and professional dreams. Message number 4 is my favorite, y'all. Avoiding weapons of mass distraction. I repeat, avoiding weapons of mass distraction. What is your greatest distraction? You are a scholar. You are working towards graduation. Are you identifying what are those barriers that are stopping you or that are derailing you from academic achievement or achievement in and outside the classroom? These are some of the distractions that may be slowing you down. And this is probably a better way to measure it. How many hours daily are you working towards your academics and your professional goals, personal and professional goals? Hours, dedicated hours. And how many hours are you spending on going down that Netflix rabbit hole, Snapchat, Instagram if you're still on Instagram, Twitter if you're still on Twitter, TikTok, etc., YouTube, whatever it is, just consuming content that is slowing you down or is not relevant to your overall development and growth. The idea behind it is you have to balance and use these tools, or use these, what you consider, what might be toys to you as tools, and then focusing on elevation over entertainment. They've created all of these platforms with addictive properties. So we're waiting for that notification. We're posting and deleting if we don't get enough likes. It's all a distraction. And previously, we would say the younger generation prior to the pandemic were addicted to their devices. I would argue, if you look around when you're in public spaces, that we're all addicted to our devices. So what are we going to do? How can you minimize the addiction or the connection to these social media platforms? One, let's not make the phone or the screen the first thing that you reach for and the last thing that you do at night. Two, use the different platform applications that allow you to measure the time that you're using it, shut off through a certain time. Use your use of social media as a reward versus making it your primary and dominant function all day. It's very important to understand that, because believe it or not, a year is going to pass by regardless, right? Time does not stand still. Are you going to be comfortable with where you are and proud of the decisions you make today? Your future self should be proud of. So you want to be very mindful of the decisions you make in this moment. And the ultimate idea behind this Weapons of mass distraction is, will you live your dreams or watch someone else live theirs? So message number 4, avoiding weapons of mass distraction. Message number 3 are choices, and I'm going to simplify the rest of your life. You are going to make choices and you're going to have to live with those consequences. It's that simple. You have decisions to make every day. And what decisions are you going to make, again, that you're going to be proud of tomorrow, that can move the needle and move you closer towards your full actualization and the things you want to achieve in life? So we're going to have some low-level choices and then some high-level choices. So that, and this is going to come full circle. So are you Apple? Are you into Apple products or Droid products? Both or neither? Apple products or Droid products? Both or neither? All right, we'll skip this one. All right, are you a night person or a morning person? And this is a critically important one, because ultimately you want to identify whether your brain is the sharpest in the morning, sharpest at night, so you can identify when is the best time for you to actually get work done. The idea behind it is this: most times you're able to pick the courses you take based around your lifestyle, right? But not only are the course times important, but it's also important that you identify when you're actually in a space to get work done based on lifestyle, based on your alertness, etc. So if you're a morning person that can roll out of bed, wake up at 4 in the morning and still function, and you do that and use that time to get that work done. If it's in the evening, if you're a night person, and I mean not the groggy night person, because a lot of us believe we're night owls, but we're not actually focused or sharp during the night, then you can get work done then, but you want to identify that as it relates to getting work done. Okay, we'll skip this one. Daily decision. Are you going to use your devices, right? Your phones, your computers, etc., as a tool or a toy? So a toy is you're watching your favorite shows and laughing, and of course, sometimes we need to unwind and release. But if you use it as a tool, can you start a smart business, a business with your phone and have everything set up through your phone? Can you use it to network with family and get closer to your loved ones? Again, strategically using these devices to better your life and not use it to just as purely entertainment. Okay, we'll skip this one. All right, what about this? So elevation over entertainment. Once again, just take an inventory of your activities over the past week. Were they focused on elevation, stimulating your mind, growth, development, or was it just purely entertainment where you're not growing through these activities, they're just purely for pleasure? Are you sitting there focusing on your favorite entertainer's lifestyle? Are you sitting there going down a rabbit hole of YouTube clips, TikTok clips, but you're still sitting still, or your grades are being impacted, or you have lack of focus? One study said that our attention span now is 8 seconds. So are you being distracted? Are you sitting down to get homework done, and then literally before you know it, you're locking into YouTube and haven't gotten anything accomplished? It's very important that you can do a self-reflection, self-inventory, hold the mirror up so you can actually identify the things you may need to change. Okay, we'll skip this. Your daily approach to life. A philosopher once said, the most important decision you're going to make is whether you live in a happy world or a hostile world, meaning your own approach to what you see is going to determine your outcome. So are you taking a positive approach, or are you taking a negative approach where the external activities have impacted you and wore you down so much that you no longer have that zest for life? It's very important that you try to rewire that script in your head to focus more on the positive and have a positive outlook on how you plan to approach your daily operation. We'll skip this one. And if we were doing this in person, there'd be a whole activity around some of these. We're going to skip this one. That inner voice, right? Is that inner voice a coach or a critic? Is that voice in your head? Because believe it or not, you talk to yourself more than you talk to anyone else. Is that inner voice telling you that you are intelligent, that you are enough, that you have the capabilities to achieve your personal and professional dreams? Or is that voice poking at your self-esteem, saying that you're not enough? That's a lie. Saying that you won't earn your degree, that's a lie. Saying that, oh, because I'm the first person in my family to go to school, that this is too tough and I need to give up, that's a lie. Please rewire that narrative in your head to make sure that it's primarily positive. Yes, you will have times where you're down. So what I suggest is that you never get too high, you never get too low, and you try to remain in the middle. Meaning, you know what your capabilities are if you fully apply yourself. So if you know that to get this degree, you're going to have to work X times or 10 times harder, then that's how you rewire your brain. Yes, this is a challenge, but I'm going to turn it into a solvable puzzle by these action steps. We'll skip this one. Are you willing to learn and unlearn things that you've been told your entire life are true? Are you willing to learn and unlearn things that you've been told your entire life are true? So most of us grow up in homogenous communities. So we think like a monolith, where oftentimes college is that first opportunity to really branch out and be exposed to new ideas, new concepts. So if that's the case, do you or are you willing to challenge what you've been told your entire life is true and open and expand your mind to new ideas and new possibilities? It's critically important that we're willing to do that, because ultimately you're going to learn more outside the classroom potentially than you're going to learn inside the classroom. And everyone you meet knows something that you don't. So it's very important that you understand that as you move forward in your college experience. Okay, we'll skip this one. Do you know the difference between a want and a need, right? You may want crab legs, all you need is nourishment. You may want a mansion, all you need is a roof over your head. You may want, I don't even know, $1,000 jacket, but all you need is garments on over you. The difference between a want and a need is understanding the instant gratification, delaying gratification, so that you can actually achieve the things that you want in life by hard work and effort. So it's very important to understand that as you move forward, because ultimately, those folks, if you look back on the folks in your circle who may not have done as well, oftentimes it's not being able to delay gratification and that instant gratification, needing it right now and not understanding the difference between a want or a need was their biggest challenge, or one of their biggest challenges. Let's skip this one. All right, this is awesome. So passion, are you in it for the passion or the paycheck, right? Passion or the paycheck. So as it relates to your career plans and what you plan to achieve in life, are you looking for passion or the paycheck? So let me break it down for you in layman's terms. Would you prefer to make $49K in a career that you love, or $100K in a career that you hate? Now, think about this in terms of everyone you've seen in your life, family members otherwise, who's happy, who's not, who's working in their passion, who's not. Think about your career and the multiple revenue streams. Actually, think about your career in paid and unpaid ways that you can live out your passion connected to your goals. Then answer this question for yourself: $49K in a career that you love, or $100K in a career that you hate? These are the questions that every scholar needs to ask themselves if they pursue a particular major, a minor, degree, because ultimately you want to be able to say, my passion is this, and these are the paid and unpaid ways that I'm going to live out this passion. So for example, people always use teachers for this example. So I'll use teachers for lack of a better example. Teachers say make $60,000 a year, right? People say, oh, that's not a lot of money. But if your passion is educating scholars, how are you identifying how you can be a teacher? And then how can you use your skill set and your training and your degree and your passion to find other ways to live out that passion? Mentorship, counseling, et cetera, trainings, performance consultant, all of those things that are related to your passion. But you have to be able to identify your passion. And if you can't identify your passion, oftentimes folks use the process of elimination. So if you don't know what you want to do, can you at least check off the things you don't want to do? All right, I don't want to go into the medical field. Why? Be able to articulate why. I don't want to go into the social sciences. I don't want to go into education. I don't want to go into business. Like, so really honing down so you can then narrow it down to maybe the arts or other areas, and then you can really dig deeper to how you can pursue and achieve that passion. It's a very important piece that I think a lot of folks don't really hone in on. That could be the ultimate difference between true satisfaction or career failure, where you're working in a field and I know you know people who are in their field, but completely unhappy and satisfied with their day-to-day. Okay, pick one, right? And don't strain your eyes. There was a study conducted, and this was literally in 2000, around 2010. So I know that the statistics are worse now, that 3 million degree holders were surveyed, and over 1 out of 2 were underemployed, meaning you have your degree in your bachelor's degree, your associate's degree, your master's, your doctorate, but you're not working in your particular field. The ultimate goal when you're pursuing a particular degree is to connect it to multiple revenue streams or personal passion, the things you love to do. So when you think about your degree, your major, your minor, your passion, you have to find the intersection between those things and then pursue those things with intent. So you don't want to fall into that category of somebody who has the college degree. And it doesn't mean once you earn your college degree that it's ultimately going to work out for you. It's a lot of work that has to happen after the college degree. But ultimately, you have to be in pursuit of your passion. And if you are in pursuit of your passion, you'll never work a day in your life because you're connecting it to something that's bigger, that's greater, that you would love to complete. Let's have several examples of people in my circle that I've known, or Rain, who's an entrepreneur, trainer, business owner, truly living out his passion and his purpose. And that's the ultimate goal for you, to be able to truly identify what you love to do and achieve that dream. Naima, a young lady who I went to high school with, who lives in the Midwest and is a nurse, pursued her passion late in her career and was able to make those connections. And now she's living her dream and living in her purpose. Her sister's a filmmaker. You may have seen some of her films on HBO. No dream is too big. And I know oftentimes there's family pressure and pressure from other venues and people who don't believe that these dreams in the arts can happen. I think it can happen if you could pursue it at a high level and with intent. But you have to be able to, so for example, and this Nefertiti is her name, it's a great example because ultimately she pursued it. Now, if she didn't make it to HBO and didn't get a chance to work with these A-list celebrities, I would argue that she would still be happy making these independent films or independent art only because she's working in her passion. So is the goal HBO or is the goal the passion? And those are two different things. So those are the things you must discern, because ultimately it's not necessarily about HBO, even though you want to reach the highest stage. You want to also make sure that you are truly pursuing your passion with intent. And ultimately, and what's frustrating for a lot of folks is that a lot of industries have changed due to the pandemic. So you have to do a deeper dive with your career services area to truly understand how these things are evolving. One of the greatest resources for career development that I found is the Occupational Handbook. And it's a great resource. And I know it's been updated since the pandemic to really, all you have to do is put in your career passion. And if you look it up, it will give you the summary of the training needed, the salary outlook, the job outlook over the next 10 years, and then related positions that are connected to that particular area. Great resource. This gentleman, the former mayor of Roselle, grew up single parent household. He's doing amazing things in politics, very connected to the people. These young ladies, the majority of them are immigrants. They're all MDs. Again, no dream is too big if you're willing to put the work in. Dr. Mills, who was the former principal of Shabazz and founded a school in his hometown of Patterson that lives in the shadows of a jail and not too far from the projects he grew up in, CCP Alabama projects in Patterson. Again, no dream is too big. This young lady may have helped you with your traffic report this morning. She's living her dreams and her passion, and we want you ultimately to live yours. Dr. Gonzalez, Harlem native, from DR, now a doctor, published several articles on Hispanic male development, student success in higher education. John Paul Gonzalez is probably my favorite story. This young man, if you Google his name, John Paul Gonzalez in New York Giants, you'll find that he delivered the motivational speech that motivated the New York Giants when they beat the undefeated New England Patriots a few years back with a slogan he created, "All In." And that idea is similar to my talk. It's about being all in for everything you want to pursue and everything you want to achieve. Are you all in as it relates to your education and your long-term goals? This actress, you may have seen her on Fat Albert and Sopranos and Entourage. Once again, this is a local New Jersey raised young lady who's achieving her dreams in the arts, and we want you to achieve yours. This young lady, Tiffany the Budgetnista, once again, local, has an international financial literacy movement, helped pass a bill to make financial literacy mandatory in the schools. She's an inspiration to me. And it's very important, again, to understand what is your passion, what is your purpose, and how will you live out that passion, and how will you live out that purpose. This young lady, when I first added her to my presentation, she was a future doctor, and now she is a doctor. So again, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations? Chef Dane, who's one of my former scholars, who's now a professional chef. He's catered several events for me. Do you have a love for the culinary arts? What are your passions? And then how can you live out those passions? And then this is a relative of mine who is now he has several certifications. He's an X-ray technician, and then literally has found his passion and his purpose and is doing amazing things and traveling the world. So just very proud of him and everything he's accomplished. This young man was one of my scholars who earned multiple scholarships. So instead of wasting time on social media, he was able to find multiple scholarships to help fund his education. Very proud of Ralph. And this is another example of a gentleman. He now lives on the West Coast. Instead of wasting time on Facebook, he found the Facebook internship. Instead of wasting time on Google, he found the Google internship. So this is him at the Facebook headquarters. This is him at the Google headquarters. This is him with the America Needs You scholarship that he was a part of. And that's also him with a fuzzy koala bear when he studied abroad in Australia. Once again, what are your passions? What is your purpose? This young man, family member, Kenny Bingle, you can Google him, very shy young man, connected to his passion and his purpose. I was able to purchase him before he became a professional wrestler, I purchased him a doll of him as a professional wrestler. And he utilized that passion and the love and the focus he got from his family. And now if you Google him, he's a multiple award-winning professional wrestler living out his passion and his dream. And if you would have known him as a child, you would have never thought that shy kid would be a big time performer. But again, it's about truly digging deep to identify your passions and your purpose. And I'll give you a framework that I developed later on to help you move towards those goals. So what are your goals? What are your aspirations? And now, when you think about your goals, we talked about becoming full circle with the Apple products and the Droid products. As it relates to your goals and aspirations, are you fully charged? Are you partially charged? Or are you looking for an outlet? Your personal dreams and aspirations. Not what anyone wants for you, what you actually want for yourself. What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? Once again, it's, folks are going to graduate, but are you going to graduate prepared for the next step, with a plan for the next step? Nothing's guaranteed after graduation, but you have to be, it's not just about going to class, it's about the co-curricular components that are going to enhance your education. And one of my favorite speakers basically shared this. He said, will your degree become a souvenir or a passport? So that was so profound. Will your degree become a souvenir or a passport? Souvenir on the wall, collecting dust, or will you use it as a passport to achieve all of your personal and professional dreams? Team success or team failure is the second message. We are almost done. Team success or team failure. So I had the privilege of going to high school with the three doctors of Newark, Dr. Jenkins, Dr. Davis, and Dr. Hunt. They wrote a book called The Pact. They supported each other through high school, all grew up in single parent households. They all went to the same college, Seton Hall, went to the same pre-college program at Seton Hall. They all went on to become MDs. The Star Ledger wrote a story about their journey, and they became very well known. They were on Oprah's couch. They were invited to the White House. They are internationally known for their journey to becoming doctors. This mural that you see painted is a mural of them on 16th Avenue and 18th Street, not too far from where I grew up at, by Westside Park in Newark, New Jersey. And they're my peers. They're 1 year older than me. They wrote a book called The Pact. Three young men make a promise and fulfill a dream. Once again, Dr. Davis, Dr. Jenkins, and Dr. Hunt. And the image you see on the other side is an image of me in high school with the Tar Heel t-shirt on. Same high school, same dreams and aspirations. They form a pact, support each other, and they go on to become doctors. And we don't form a pact. And what do you think happens on our end? The young man with the red hat was deported on drug charges, and the young man with the paisley shirt was murdered shortly after high school. So when we talk about team success or team failure, who is in your fave five? Who are you spending the most time with? I don't care if it's your mother, your brother, your lover. Are they moving you towards team success? Or are they moving you towards team failure? Because ultimately, I've read where they said you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and show me your friends and I'll show you your future. But I think this is the most profound quote that I've seen related to the importance of a strong circle of influence. And it comes from the late, great Nipsey Hussle. And he said, if your circle of friends don't inspire you, they are not a circle, they are a cage. If your circle of friends don't inspire you, they are not a circle, they are a cage. So I need you to form a pact. And the first pact I need you to form is with yourself. The first step is to identify, and this is a mirror exercise. You're holding the mirror up and you're identifying what your strengths are. What are your primary strengths? Being very clear and being honest. What are your strengths, right? Identify what those strengths are. Next, identify what your work in progress are. What are your blind spots? What are your weaknesses, if you will? What do you need to improve on to be a better you personally and professionally? And be honest, really identify what those things are. 3, pat yourself on the back. What is your greatest achievement? I don't care if it was straight A's in the 3rd grade, track trophy in the 7th grade, first person in your family to go to college. What are you most proud of? First time homeowner, what are you most proud of? Overcoming addiction, whatever that is. What are you most proud of as it relates to your personal achievement? And then identifying, being very intentional as it relates to what is your next primary goal? What do you plan to achieve moving forward with intention? It's very important that you are very honest and open about what you plan to achieve. And then this one is the I am and the I will principle. Who you are and who you plan to become. This is the number one message as it relates to the 5 messages on the road to graduation. The I am is your identity, right? Who you are, and what you plan to become is the I will, your goals and your purpose. The I am and the I will, who you are and who you plan to become. Okay? And this is the idea behind the I am and the I will, all right? You might be familiar with some of these icons. Maybe over 12 to 15 years ago, these icons didn't exist. You could have never told my generation that you would get in somebody's private car to vacation in somebody's private home, right? Somebody had the foresight, the vision, the reality the foresight and the vision to create a new reality as it relates to growth and development. So it's the before and the after principle. Who you are and who you plan to become. Who you are and who you plan to become. So think about this. This is the before and the after principle, right? Who you are and who you plan to become. This is an image of me and my mentor and my mentee. We made a pact that we would celebrate each other once we all became doctors. This is Dr. Irvin, and this is Dr. Davis. And they both just the before and the after principle. And we basically supported each other and said that we would, once we became doctors, that we would take a professional photo shoot. The before and the after. These three young ladies said that they would become doctors. This is the before and the after. This is us celebrating once they became doctors, and essentially just making sure that you are very intentional and you're connecting with folks who are like-minded, who actually want to make things happen. Very important. And then this is one of my favorites. This young man became a federal agent and a homeland firearm instructor, and he actually responded during the insurrection in January of 2021 to restore peace at the Capitol. But everybody laughed at him when he said he wanted to become a federal agent. He connected with somebody who had the resources to help him. Mentorship matters. And ultimately, he was able to get that done. So once again, it's the I am and the I will principle. And the ideas that I want to share with you related to this is basically writing out your I am and your I will. So this is a very brief sample before we do a deeper dive. I am Danny Jean, proud Haitian American. This is who I am. I will directly impact 100,000 scholars. That is my vision. That is my purpose. That is my passion, right? So being very intentional with who you are and who you plan to become. Very important that you can hone in on it and then focus intently as you plan to achieve what you plan to achieve. Sample, I am a proud Cuban. I will be the first in my family to graduate. Very simple. Just being very mindful of who you are and who you plan to become. Being very intentional as you move forward with who you are and who you plan to become. Another sample. I am a tired athlete. Again, you can focus on the challenges that you're facing right now. I am exhausted. I am weak. Whatever it is. But what are you going to do moving forward? So I will earn my degree and pursue my career in the health field. Very simple. Be very intentional as it relates to your growth and development and what you plan to achieve in life. It's an amazing journey. And this is a simple theory, but it's very important to kind of map out who you are and what you plan to be, because anything you put after I am, no one can tell you that you are not. I am intelligent, I am focused, I am tired, I am weak, I am overwhelmed, whatever it is, and then I will earn my degree, I will pursue my career, I will achieve all of my passions. This is a tweet. So typically I have presenters or I have participants when I'm presenting share that I am and that I will. So I would love for you to share yours. I'll share my social media handle at the end. But I am the first African-American to earn a PhD in biomechanics at UDEL, and I will not be the last. 5,000 retweets, 37,000 likes. Once again, using social media as a tool and not a toy. Elevation over entertainment. So this is a deeper dive into the I am and the I will that I want you all to partake in. I am a proud Dominican first-year scholar, okay? Let us know who you are, right? I don't want to define who you are. You tell me who you are from the onset. You tell yourself who you are, not what society defines you as, not what your family members and friends or your partner defines you as. Who do you believe you are? And then the I will. I will major in health policy and be a first in my family to earn my bachelor's and my master's. Okay, these are your goals, personal or professional. Now, beyond the I am and the I will, we want to focus on the action achievement dates, right? So what action will you take? This is so important, right? So what will you do? And then when will you achieve it? Like map it out. It's basically goal setting, but at a more of an intentional degree, because it's, I will secure an internship in my field. You add the date, and then you have to work towards achieving that action step. I will research grad programs and secure references. Add the date. Very important that you have that mapped out. Why is this growth and change important? So This is probably the most important piece. We have the I am, we have the I will. So who you are and who you plan to become, the action plan and the action achievement dates. But why is this important? So some people say, oh, it's willpower. I'm not going to eat, sugar products or blah, 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 or drink soda. I have the willpower. No, it's the why power. Why is it important? Why are you going to do this? So the why for the sample is, I plan to work in the health field to improve the dismal healthcare in my community. So once this individual sees or saw what's happening within their community, they feel that they can be the change that they need to see. So any of your I am and your I wills are really connected to why is it important to you. Excuse me. Because if it's important to you, you will make it a priority. You will make sure that it gets done at a high level, and you will not be distracted. So it's very important that you understand what the why power is. It will fuel and charge you as you move forward. So we'll do a quick recap of the 5. I'll go into a deeper dive of who I am, and then we'll share some additional exercises that I think might be useful for you moving forward. So message number 5 was no excuses, right? We talked about validating any trauma or drama you've experienced in life. Oftentimes, your past can be clouded with drama, trauma, depressive thoughts, very significant events that have impacted you and experiences. And then the future could be clouded with anxiety and fear about the unknown, right? And I think a lot of us are feeling that now with everything that's happening with the world, with the food supply chain and the war and the mass shootings and the civil unrest that's within our community. So there's a lot going on. So a lot of that unknown is causing anxiety and fear. But you don't have the past or the future. You only really have the present moment. So how can you remain still and focused within the present moment and being very intentional with meditative exercises, breathing exercises, detachment, connecting with loved ones, and having meaningful experiences that can bring joy to you, but being very clear, as I said earlier, that no one is coming to save you. So it's very important that you are ready and prepared as it relates to the next step of your journey in achieving your goals and aspirations. Message number 4, avoiding weapons of mass distraction. I can't say it any differently. Are you going to live your dreams or watch somebody else live theirs? Very important to really discern and identify how you plan to achieve your dreams and aspirations and not being distracted by somebody else's highlight reel. Like, just think about social media, Instagram, whatever it is. They're creating an algorithm that's based off of your habits and your likes. So they're posting all of the things that you're going to follow, and it automatically draws you in. So they're studying your behaviors. You don't want to be pulled into these devices to the point where you can't focus on what you need to actually achieve. So let's avoid those weapons of mass distraction. Let's be very intentional as it relates to moving forward with our goals and focusing on the things that we know are important. Message number 3, inner voice. So we talked about rewriting that script in your inner voice, being very intentional and trying to make sure that you're focusing on that coach voice versus that critic voice, right? And we know we have both, but how can you make the coach voice more of a priority and prioritize that voice and rewrite the narrative so that the critical voice that's in your head is not poking at your self-esteem, so that you can actually achieve what you need to achieve. And then to simplify it, life is 10% what happens and 90% how you respond, right? So we talked about the positive approach to life or the negative approach to life. How can you take control of your approach to life so that you don't overwhelm yourself and you can live in a positive space regardless of your circumstances? Because peace is not external, peace is within, right? So you might find this area more conducive to relaxation, but peace has to be within before you can seek ways to supplement that peace. Team success or team failure. I think Nipsey Hussle said it best. If your circle of friends don't inspire you, they're not a circle, they are a cage. So it's very important that you surround yourself with like-minded individuals who bring positive energy. Again, if you show me your friends, you're showing me your future. How can you truly dial into and connect? And there are paid individuals at every institution in this country that are here to help and support you. So you connect with those resources as much as you can. Question oftentimes comes up with this particular item or idea is that, well, you know, it's my family and I don't live in a healthy environment. Well, you have to make choices. Your journey is your journey. So you have to be very honest and open in terms of how you plan to move forward as it relates to the people around you so that you don't get overwhelmed and lose sight of what's most important. It's very important that you understand that although you can support family members, you cannot let anyone, I don't care who it is, bring you down and stop you from achieving what you plan to achieve. And then the I am and the I will. And I'm the author of I am and I will. I have the book here somewhere to pull it out. That basically the framework is who you are and who you plan to become. It's the I am and the I will principle that I think is very important. You can talk to your administrators to see if they can get you copies of it. They should have copies for you. But it's the I am and the I will, who you are and who you plan to become. So these are the 5 messages. Again, no excuses, no distractions. Listen to that inner voice before you make that next choice. Choosing team success over team failure, and then the I am and the I will principle. And this is who I am, Dr. Danny Jean. And my handle, my social media handle on Instagram is @WordsTravel, and then Danny Jean on Facebook, LinkedIn, and it's also @WordsTravel at Twitter as well. I'm not on TikTok, I'm not on Snapchat presently. So let me tell you a little bit more about myself. Typically folks do this in the beginning, but I wanted to really hit you with those 5 messages. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll spend a little bit of time going over some exercises that you can use as you move forward to really, whenever you are in a place of reflection where you need to just pause, these exercises can help you. So the I am and the I will is the first exercise, like truly understanding and identifying who you are and what you plan to achieve. So most importantly, I just want to let you know that regardless of what I've accomplished, don't forget I was the kid with the 1.9 GPA growing up in the heart of New Jersey, because oftentimes when you see someone who's accomplished a few things, you don't lose, or folks can lose sight of their journey, right? And everybody's journey is individual, but please be mindful that this is the starting point, if you will, as it relates to my journey. Graduated from Ramapo College with my public communications degree. Graduated from Montclair State University with my master's in counseling, and then I earned my degree from Seton Hall University in higher ed administration, my doctoral degree. I'm the author of 3 books. The I Am and the I Will is my latest publication. Words Travel was an anthology of hip hop poetry that I created. And then Words Travel Till Death Do Us Part was a play that ran off Broadway to sold out shows in New York City in 2010 and 2012 that focused on the first year of marriage of a young African-American couple. And they kind of balance the journey of love and family and commitment, et cetera, during their first year of marriage. I've published several articles on improving outcomes for so-called at-risk populations. I've also written about my Future Doctor movement, Finished, which has approximately 30,000 members in our Facebook group, Finished, PhD Finished, Finished EDD Finished, hashtag Who Got Next. I'm very active on social media with that hashtag. I've also, along with my wife, started a scholarship program called the EOF Advantage Program at Ramapo College for Patterson and Newark natives. I also have a mentorship program in honor of my comrades, Richard Wilson, Jason James. May they rest in power. Both comrades of mine who have impacted my life in so many different ways, and want to make sure that their name lives on beyond my time here on this earth. And then when I say mentorship matters, it's very important. So I have mentees that when they graduate with their bachelor's degree, I show up to their ceremony with master's degree frames with their names on it. And then I have master's, I attend my scholars for master's programs. When they graduate, I show up with doctoral degrees with their name on it. So again, my journey, and I don't know if I shared this, I'm an EOF, so a low income, had to enter college through an EOF college access program. And these professionals worked in higher education, believed in me, and made the difference as it relates to my journey in education. So I'm looking up to, now that I'm on the elevator up, sending the elevator back down for the next generation. The I Am and the I Will, again, is the latest book. Very excited. I have a reprint coming out with some edits, with a new book cover, so I'm excited about that. And then back to the self-reflection, right? So take out something, to write with, your phone, pen, pencil, and complete the sentence. The greatest challenge I am facing right now is blank. Let's hold the mirror up and do these self-reflective exercises that I think will help you truly identify what are some of the roadblocks that you're facing. And then how can you turn that into a solvable puzzle? So what is my greatest challenge? What am I actually facing? What's the hardest thing that I'm going through right now? And how can I turn that into a problem, a solvable puzzle that I can actually work on and fix? And so maybe some of those things can't be fixed, but can you be very mindful of it as a roadblock so you understand what that roadblock brings? So for example, I live in a high crime area, so that may be limiting in terms of how you can move. I have limited resources, so I can do X, Y, Z, but I can't do that, right? Just being mindful of what that challenge is so you can know how you can get the workarounds to continue to move forward with passion and purpose. Very important as well. Again, self-reflection, hold the mirror up. 2 self-love practices. What are 2 self-love practices that you can, or that you currently do, or that you can now take advantage of? Self-love meaning I take walks. Why? Because walking is exercise. Self-love, I stop eating snacks or high sugar desserts with high sugar content. I read. Like, what are you doing that's literally a self-care, self-love practice? It's very important that you can identify what those things are as it relates to your journey moving forward. And then now I want to introduce the stop, continue, and start. Stop, continue, start, okay? Very important. It's a concept that's not original, but I think it's very useful for what we plan to do. It's, what do you need to stop right now in your life? An activity, a practice, a mindset. What do you need to continue? Like, what are you doing well that's working for you so you can really be specific? And then what do you need to start doing, right? Very important. It's the stop, continue, and start paradigm. So when we talk about stopping, think about your daily activity. In school, out of school, personally, professionally. What activity do you know you need to stop doing as it relates to your journey to growth in personal and professional goal attainment? Beyond that, what activity do you need to continue? What do you identify as a practice, a mindset, a movement, an activity that you are currently involved in, that you realize that's positive, that's helping you achieve your goals, that you can continue to do? And then starting. What do you need to start doing that you have not done so far, that you can commit to, that you can identify as a practice that will add to the quality of your life? It is very important that you can identify those 3 things. So take a minute to do so. Once again, it's the stop, continue, and start paradigm. What will you stop? What activity will you continue? And what activity will you start to improve your overall quality of life? Stop, continue, and start. So we're now going to go into the Q&R. So we have about 10 minutes for Q&R. There were some questions that were shared earlier, so we added it to the slides. I'm going to go over these questions, answer any questions that may come up. And again, I'll give you my contact information to share after the presentation is over. So question number 1, what kept you focused in the midst of your childhood trauma? So I don't know if I was actually focused during the trauma. I was very blessed to be able to achieve everything I was able to achieve and survive. My family members say we had PTSD from it. I don't know if I would label it as such, but the focus I needed was that I deserve more and I want more. So I would not settle as it relates to my activity, my energy. I learned how to separate myself from people who weren't positive. When I was younger, I think I wasn't as sharp in understanding how important it was to not put yourself in circumstances. So I found myself a number of times being in situations where I could have died. And once I understood that a little bit better, and again, a lot of it is retrospect, I was able to identify like, wow, me not going there was a good idea, or me separating myself from my cousin who was into blah, 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 helped me to focus more. So very important that you can understand that as it relates to trauma. It's basically finding resources, people that you know love you, and separating yourself from the nonsense. Question number 2, how do you overcome a lack of self-esteem? Wow. So I will admit, I still struggle at times. I'm not where I was. I think it's a journey, not a destination as it relates to self-esteem. There are a lot of things that can poke at you at times. That's why I mentioned earlier about identifying not getting too high and not getting too low and trying to live in the middle. So when it comes to achievement and goals and aspiration, oftentimes if the plan is not charted, it's hard for you to understand where you're heading towards, and or if you don't achieve what you want to achieve, it could poke at you. Or if you're pursuing something you've never done before, it can poke at you. So it's very important to understand that self-esteem is literally your self-belief. And that's literally where it starts. So that's rewriting the wiring in your mind, not making excuses, avoiding distractions, and being very intentional about wellness and growth and development. So if you're spending hours consuming reality TV or fake reality TV, as I call it, and it's not moving you towards your goals and aspirations, you're going to find yourself being stagnant and comparing yourself to that person with the fake body parts and the fake hair and the fake skin tone and all of this jazz, really focusing on who you are and who you want to become. Great questions. Question number 3. I'm addicted to my phone. Any tips on how I can unplug? We talked about it earlier. How can you unplug? Unplug, right? Don't make the phone the first thing you reach for in the morning. You think you need to know what's happening. You think you need to know who broke up. You think you need to know what's coming on tonight, but it's really about your wellness and your growth and your development. So when you wake up, are you going to eat the proper foods? Are you going to wash properly? Are you going to chart out your day? Do all of those things before you reach and try to figure out the next Wordle or whatever it is. Focus on you first. 2, when you in the evening, self-reflection. Self-reflection is critically important. This probably should be 6 messages, because self-reflection is really key. Holding the mirror up, right? Call it selfie, right? Literally identifying who you are, and then understanding exactly what you plan to achieve. So use that end of the day to have a by yourself meeting, as I call it, to identify what needs to change. What didn't I do right today? What's the start, the stop, and the continue as it relates to the day-to-day? Very important. Question number 4, I have several negative influences in my life, mostly family. I feel stuck. Any advice? Wow. So negative influences are real, and that could not just be family. It could be what you're watching, what you're eating, your partner. So it's really important to identify what all the positive sources are in your life. Positive resources, positive sources, positive content. So for example, you might be into a certain kind of music, and that music and their lifestyle, and you're following your favorite MC, you're following your favorite actress, and their lifestyle seems glamorous, but they're a millionaire or a billionaire, and they're making these, pushing out this information that you're following in your home, and it doesn't connect because you're not that person. So you have to be yourself and identify those positive influences. If you're in negative spaces, you have to try to minimize your time in those, within that negative energy, and also identify an exit strategy as it relates to creating a more conducive space. Remember, peace is within. You do need, or you can benefit greatly from a peaceful external, but peace truly comes from within. So how can you identify ways that you can truly tap in to inner peace and avoid negative spaces as much as you can until you can take full control of your circumstances? Great question. Question number 5, how did I create the I am and the I will framework? It came from just growth and development. Like, wow, how can I simplify this? I see so many people who look like me, who are coming from the communities that I grew up in, not doing well, and it bothers me, it overwhelms me. I want them to live a better life. So I'm asking, or I was trying to figure out what's the paradigm, what's the framework that I can share that can help folks truly identify their passion and their dreams. And the I am and the I will was the most simplified way I think you can do that. So I'm very excited that that's an opportunity, a framework that gives people an opportunity to achieve their personal passions and dreams. Question number 6, and we're almost done. How did you go from a 1.9 GPA to becoming a doctor? I don't know. When I look back on it, I do know, but in the moment, I didn't know. I just know I wanted more in my life. I knew that I was going to attach to any positive energy and resource. I knew what a bad choice and a good choice was. So I just locked in. So when I was going back to school, other folks were having children and doing other things that I felt were priorities for later, not my current priorities. So I locked in on earning my degrees so that I can live the life that I wanted to live. Now, okay, I got to admit, I didn't realize I was doing that in the moment. That's why it's great for me to kind of develop this framework that people can run with moving forward. So you can be very intentional wherever you are in your particular journey. Question number 7, I'm having depressive thoughts and a high level of anxiety. All right, so that's a statement, more of a question, but you are not alone. Please seek resources. There's counseling resources, your loved ones. Excuse me. There's a lot of social media content that can help you identify. There's the Calm app and other apps that are, some of them are free that you can use, or YouTube content where you can find Tony Robbins or Les Brown. These are some of the speakers that I look to as virtual mentors to help me identify my right mindset. So please make sure you're taking advantage of those resources. Any words of motivation for overcoming loss? Wow, yeah, lost my father. I have vivid memories of being chased by a grown man on South Orange Avenue with a machete. Lost several young loved ones to untimely deaths. I read somewhere, but they said grief is love with nowhere to go. And I just thought that was the most powerful statement I've ever heard about loss. Grief is love with nowhere to go. It takes time. I think it's true, but they say you lose a part of you when certain people are gone, because that part of you, that love, that energy, that connection, that networking is no longer there. But I think it's more of a day-to-day process. I think it's okay to cry. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to connect with other ones who are suffering from that loss as well and reminisce on the good times. We all have to die one day. So I think we have to be very mindful of reflecting on what we did have and thankful for those, and being using it as a reminder. I went to a funeral recently of a 15-year-old who drowned in Paterson, New Jersey. And the mother was the only one to offer reflections at the ceremony. And she was so poised and spoke with so much passion. And her only message was, well, she talked about her son and how they both loved hair, but she also said a message to the youth in the church saying, please do not gamble with your life, make better decisions. And she received a standing ovation. It was so powerful. I was crying, I was in tears. Just had a student who was murdered in Paterson as well. It's very important to understand that you have to have grieving. I'm in therapy. I've been in therapy for 2 years. I'm in couples therapy, individual therapy. If you have the resources to utilize, please take full advantage of it as it relates to your journey. And question number 9, what are the most effective ways to study? So earlier we talked about nighttime, morning person, when is your brain the sharpest? Are you utilizing the tutoring skills? Are you writing effective notes? Because I have issues with reading. I have to read out loud. I've never been diagnosed with a learning disorder, but my eyes have to touch every word before I can, retain the information. So just being very mindful of what you need to learn, reviewing the syllabus, communicating with the professor so you know exactly what you need to learn, so you can focus on those things. Study groups are helpful, connecting with other folks in your circle, in your cohort who are like-minded, who want to make things happen, so that you can all focus towards that dream and aspiration and that grade. Lastly, I'll leave you with this another framework. I know I've shared a lot of frameworks, but if you don't retain anything that I've shared, please remember that everyone you meet knows something that you don't. And every decision you make, primarily, The majority of the decisions you make will either help, heal, or harm you. So can you be very intentional as it relates to the decisions you make and take inventory so you can change your behaviors, put yourself in the right circumstance, and do everything you need to do to achieve all of your personal and professional dreams. It was truly an honor to help you continue on that road to graduation. I am Dr. Danny Jean. These are the multiple ways you can contact me. I am so proud of you for completing this video. It's an hour-long video for one, but two, just being very intentional with what you plan to achieve. So if I could be of any help to you, one of my passions is to connect with folks. I have unpaid mentorship services. So if I could be of any help to you, short-term, etc., please email me, connect me, message me, so we can continue on this journey for greatness and achievement as it relates to your life, personally and professionally. I am Dr. Danny Jean. It has been an honor, an absolute honor to present to you today, and best of luck as you continue on that road to graduation.